Hi everyone, it's Evan. Hey, welcome to EARC 203 week 5. I'm looking here. I'm looking at my computer screen. I know you can see me though. I'm looking at your discussions. So, let's get started. So, chapter 6 here in week 5, we talked about let me read the title to you. Chapter 6, Emotional and Social Development of the Infant. You notice how the authors break that down to two different things, emotional and social. So not only what's going on with them emotionally, but social with other people. Development of the infant. We're just talking about the infant now, which is a whole different bird than older children. So I want to talk with you about one of the questions we were talking about, Angela and Jeremy here. And one of the questions I asked you was, what are the characteristics of the environmental context in which each child is developing? I want to read to you what Brittany wrote. Very thoughtful here. Jeremy has a stable environment because he has the same people look after him all the time, and his parents are always there to take care of him. Angela has an unstable environment because she has too many different people in her life and never really gets to see her parents. A lot of you picked up on that, and a lot of you talked about this in your terms, quizzes, the idea of routine and how important that is. It is so important, that stability. And yet, we don't want to be so rigid that the child doesn't learn how to adapt and be flexible either. So we have to be careful about this idea of routines, where the child doesn't learn how to adapt. And again, it's all within that context of what is developmentally appropriate. You know what I'm saying? Think about that. Why do we have to be careful about being overly rigid with babies in their routines? And yet we don't want that to be a license for, hey, I'm constantly uprooting his schedule and his routine. We don't want that to be a license for the kind of home that we were seeing there with Angela. So think about that. The other thing that I want to draw your attention to on that figure on page 167. If you want to grab your book, you can. You can pause this video if you need to. But look at Erickson's 8 psychosocial stages there, where they talk about from birth through adulthood. Though we're talking in this chapter about infants, it's great to see where they're leading. So look at the trust versus mistrust, then autonomy, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, and so on. But we're looking right here at the trust versus mistrust, that birth through the first year. And the authors say here, the conflicts that arise in their lives result from their biological maturation and their expectations. So what's happening in their lives biologically? Well, they're just born. Their systems are different from somebody who's matured. So infants learn, later on it says here, infants learn to trust when their caregiving is characterized by nurturing and warm interactions and predictable routines. That's how they learn to start regulating their lives. When mommy comes to them and they raise their hands, they know they'll be picked up. Now they're training their brain to start identifying patterns, which is great for cognitive growth. So the authors here talk about the 3 different kinds of emotional and social development. So take some time, if you haven't, and go back through and reread that. There's the psychosocial theory, the cognitive theory, and then the contextual theories. And I like all of them, but I really want to point out something too under the contextual theories under page 169, and that is the social cultural theory. Sometimes we call this the social constructivist theory. To me, this model makes so much sense. This is where we're recognizing the autonomy of the infant, and at the same time, autonomy means, they can do it by themselves. and that they have it in them. You know, all those other theories, the cognitive and the psychosocial theory. This kind of brings it all together for me, because then it recognizes the adult role, or the mature person, maybe it's a 10-year-old, in that infant's life. And what that means is that support. So yes, we're scaffolding with them. When they start to crawl, we put our hands by their feet when they're on their tummy, so they have something to push against. So we're not just saying, hey, you'll crawl when you're ready. We're giving them a little bit of some scaffolding, as Brittany's going to find out soon when her baby is born. Yes. Okay, so then I wanted to look at Barbara's. If you haven't had a chance, look at hers. I like how she bulleted some things that really helped. Look at Jeremy. He had that social emotional world: mom, dad, caregiver, a regular sleeping routine, a regular eating routine. Keisha's back at work. She works hard to maintain a sense of order in their home, and so forth. She really listed out some of the great things. And he's becoming wary of strangers. That was really, by the way, an aside, a lot of you chose that word stranger fear to talk about in your terms. I really like that. So nicely laid out here, Barbie. And then the other one I wanted you to take a look at if you get a chance is, Angela's. So she had some suggestions. A lot of you did. A lot of you had great suggestions. But she says Angela wrote that Angela, the baby, needs a routine and a schedule she can depend on, so she can feel safe and secure. This whole chapter talks about self-regulation and the importance of the baby learning how to take care of themselves, how to soothe themselves by sucking or pushing up against something to feel snuggly. Well, they need it emotionally as well, not just physically. Not just their wet diapers and their tummies and a scratch, that they can't reach, or a sore muscle or boredom. They also need it in this emotional, safe way. So Angela says here, her mom needs to figure out times where she can play, read, sing, or just talk to Angela to help her grow socially and emotionally. Wonderful. And so, as educators, future educators or caregivers, that's also part of our job, is helping these families when we see that there's trouble and they're not having the time, or they don't know how, or they're so stressed, as many of you pointed out, that they can't give. So we need to be ready to offer support in maybe pamphlets or trainings or quick words of encouragement. We can't fix the world, but we can help parents fix their world. So thank you all for a great talk. This was really interesting for me to read. If you have any questions, let me know. Bye.